Good morning. It is 10 o'clock, and it is time for our weekly tour briefing. I'm Eric Rosenberg. I'm the owner of Sun Tours here in Albuquerque. So I want to thank everybody in the room for being here and everybody on the call who's joining us, either from the Tucson area or from Albuquerque or points in between. So this is a presentation today, and we're going to talk about our upcoming tour that we've planned to go to the Canadian Rockies. We've got it's sort of a land, it's a train, as well as a boat tour. So it's our Rockies Inside Passage and Rail tour. Jim Warren, who's our partner based out of Canada, he's going to be giving the presentation. So in a couple minutes, I'm going to tee off to him and let him give the presentation. Just a couple of housekeeping things is, while I have everybody on the phone, those in Albuquerque, we're having our customer appreciation event this Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. right here in our offices. So everybody's invited. We'll be having giveaways, get to know the staff, talk about the tours that we have planned for 2024 and even into 2025. So we hope all of you can make it there. What else from housekeeping? Let's see. I had a card here. Our next catalog, we're very excited. We've got that off to the printer, and that should be in the mail as of next week. So not in time for our event this Friday, but with all of our planning, unfortunately, ran into a little problem with the printer, competing with some of the election printing. So unfortunately, goes behind them and should be out next week. In the meanwhile, most of our new tours, including this one, are online. So if you have any questions, let us know, and we're happy to answer anything that you have. So we love going to Canada. Certainly, we go up to Canada, Sun Tours and Pleasure Bent Tours, at least 5 or 6 times a year. We'll either go east, west, and even central. We've got a wonderful Trans-Canada train tour. We've got tours to the west, tours to the east. And this is one of our favorite tours that we've done over the years. This kind of combines a lot of different platforms, and you get to see a lot of Canada, a lot of wonderful scenery, water, so mountains, wonderful plains. And so without further ado, I'm going to pass this to Jim. Jim has been our partner for quite a while and was instrumental in putting this tour together. Our tour guide, which Jim has arranged for us, will be waiting for us when we fly to Calgary to start off the tour. So Jim, when you're ready, are you ready now?
I am totally ready.
Great. Well, I'm going to mute myself.
Well, first of all, thank you, Eric, and thanks for this opportunity to chat with everybody who's online. This is by far my absolute favorite tour of the Canadian Rockies and British Columbia. I've had the good fortune of escorting some of these tours, putting them together for several decades, and this is by far my favorite because it really combines. It's actually 3 tours in one. Eric kind of mentioned it. It's a bus tour of the Canadian Rockies, and then we get on the train for 2 days of exploring the wilderness of British Columbia. Then we take that beautiful trip down the Inside Passage for a full day. Then we get on to Vancouver Island for a full day, and it really combines just an amazing number of everything. So I would just say welcome to the Rockies Rail and Inside Passage Cruise Tour, which is going to take place from August 15th to the 24th. And we'll start off in Calgary, which is just 90 minutes to the east of Banff. Come into Banff for 2 nights, work our way up the beautiful Icefield Highway to Jasper. Then we'll get on a train. That's about 980 miles across the beautiful part of British Columbia. Then spend 2 nights in Prince Rupert before coming down the Inside Passage. It's a beautiful 16-hour trip. and then all the way down Vancouver Island, which is just under 300 miles. So this trip itself covers just under 1,900 miles. So it's spectacular. Our first day arrive, we'll be arriving in Calgary. Depending on the time of the arrival, we may do a quick little trip into Calgary and do just a quick look through the city if you like. But really, we really want to get to Banff. And we'll arrive in Banff National Park in the afternoon. We'll do a quick little familiarization of the city. It's very easy town site to get around. Ironically, because it's in the mountains, it's actually very flat. So easy to walk around, and our hotel will be within 3 to 4 blocks walking of the main part of the town site of Banff. And we'll do a little orientation, get you kind of ready for the rest of the event and have a real enjoyable evening getting to know everybody. So right off the bat on day 2, we get underway. We don't waste any time on this trip. We'll take the Trans-Canada Highway and follow along the beautiful Bow River Valley, heading towards Lake Louise. It's only about a 60 to 70-minute drive. We'll stop along the way to see some of the sites. This happens to be Castle Mountain, formerly known as Castle Eisenhower, named after Dwight D. Eisenhower and when he was a 5-star general. You see, they pick off the 5 peaks here. So it's a beautiful sighting along the way. We'll make our way up into the mountains from the Lake Louise village. And we don't have this in the itinerary right now, but we're going to be able to put it in now. And we're going to go into first Moraine Lake and the Valley of the 10 Peaks. This is a pristine, beautiful little area. We don't spend long there, but it's just enough to give a great feel of what we're going to see next. Another 10 minutes down the road, we will come to what they refer to as the jewel of the Rockies, and that is Lake Louise. You've probably all heard of it at some time and get a chance to see the beautiful Chateau Lake Louise as well. We'll have lots of time to walk around. You may want to walk a little ways around the lake or head into see some of the sights of the beautiful hotel, but lots of opportunity to see the lake and the glacier. And of course, the beauty of this is the lovely color of the lakes that as a result of a lot of the glacial, what they call glacial till in the lake, in the water of the lake. So once we've been there, we'll spend the morning in those 2 lakes, around those lakes, and then we'll head back to Banff and do an afternoon tour of the Banff area. And that'll enable us to visit the beautiful Bow Falls, which you see it's just on the outskirts of the Banff town site. In fact, you can walk there from your hotel if you want to go back later. We'll also take a route around in which you get to see the Hoodoo formations along the Bow River. We'll stop in at the Cave and Basin. I don't think that's included in your description, but we're going to put that in as a little bonus. And then we'll get an opportunity to visit the Cascade Gardens, which are located right in the Banff area. The iconic Banff Springs Hotel, we will drive by it. We won't actually tour it, but you'll have time at the end of the day. If there's a free bus that runs throughout Banff, and it would take you right to the hotel. So if you wanted to go up there for an afternoon cocktail or just to explore the hotel, that could be easily done. We finished the day with, I think, one of the most spectacular days, even though it's only day 2. We'll have dinner at the top of Sulphur Mountain. You can see the facility down to the left. We go up on a enclosed gondola that carries 4 people each, very smooth, very safe and very scenic. And then we'll have dinner overlooking this spectacular area. I think it's probably one of the nicest dinners we'll have along the way, and an absolutely beautiful way to see not only what we have observed from the valley below today, but also what we will be taking a look at tomorrow. And speaking of tomorrow, on day 3, probably my most favorite day when we're touring through the Rockies. This is the Icefield Parkway. It's located just outside of Lake Louise, and it's about 120 miles. It's a road that was built during the Depression, like so many of the park projects in Canada and the United States. but it is probably one of the most scenic routes anywhere in North America or even in the world. So we will make our way. It'll take us the whole day to get this 140 miles. And once you're on that motor coach, you'll get an idea of why it takes us, because we want to stop and see the beauty of what's going on here. So our first stop along the way will be at what they call the Crowfoot Glacier. That's up into the far right, and that'll be the first of many glaciers we'll see along this particular route. We'll stop at the Bow Lake and Bow Glacier, headwaters of the Bow River that we see coming down through Banff, the town site itself. And if we're lucky, we'll get a chance to go in and take a quick look at the Numtija Lodge, which is part of one of the most historic sites along the Icefield Parkway. We'll make our way through to what I think is one of the most beautiful lakes in the Rockies, and that's Pito Lake. We get a chance, it's one of the few lakes we get a chance to actually look down on. In most cases, we're looking parallel to them. So we really see some beautiful color here. And then make our way up through what they call the Mistaya Valley. This is called the Valley of the Grizzlies. And this is a better viewing of it, but you can see how the road just works its way all the way through the mountains. We're heading up to, on this part, what they call the Sunwapta Pass. It's one of two 7,000-foot mountain passes we'll go through as we make our way to Jasper. And it's here when we get up to the summit that we leave Banff National Park and enter Jasper National Park and the spectacular Columbia ice fields. What you see in front of you right now is the Athabasca Glacier, and we'll get a chance to go out on that glacier. I should point out that the first time I was on this glacier was over 50 years ago, and that glacier was actually right down to the roadway that you see below. So this is a good time to go because it's not going to be there forever, but it is still very, very beautiful. We make our way up through from the road on a special bus that brings us up to then get on this beautiful big Ice Explorer. This vehicle is specifically built to get out on the glaciers, and it'll take us right up to the toe of the Athabasca Glacier. And as you can see, you can get out, you can walk around. We're always very careful to make sure people realize this is ice and it's slippery. And it's very interesting because we're going to be there in August. It could be 70 or 80 degrees, or it could be below freezing. This is how dramatic the weather can change up in this particular area. And we'll make sure that you're aware as much as we can make you aware of what the conditions will be that day. But you're going to be standing on ice that is probably the equivalent in depth to the height of the Eiffel Tower. From there, we head down the other side of Sunwapta Pass, and there's some beautiful waterfalls called the Tangle Creek Falls, just about 20 minutes away from the ice. And we always see the bighorn sheep along there. They love to come along and lick the salt off the road and the rocks, and it's almost 100% guarantee that you'll get to view these animals. This is also a great area for viewing some of the black bears in the area. We'll either see them along this road or perhaps the next day when we go into Moline Canyon. But we've had great sightings this year, so hopefully we'll have that same opportunity. On the other side of the ice fields, we follow what they call the Endless Chain, very different, kind of different range of mountains compared to the very rugged mountains we see on the way up to the pass. This side, the mountains are still spectacular, but the valley widens out, and we get to travel along the beautiful Athabasca River. And we'll make a stop just about an hour before we reach Jasper for the Athabasca Falls. It's a little bit of a walk, but it's an easy walk in, and there's lots of viewing, and it is certainly worth the effort to come in and view these falls. The most spectacular mountain that we'll see as we get near to Jasper is Mount Edith Cavell. And probably won't have this much snow on it, as you can see in this picture, but it's kind of like the marker that says we are very close to the town site of Jasper. And when we arrive in Jasper, you'll find it's a very different place than Banff. Banff is much bigger. much busier, and Jasper tends to be pretty much the same way it was 100 years ago. And the beauty of Jasper is that it's much smaller in size, and the wildlife tends to just decide that this is their town. They don't really care that you're there. So it's very likely that the hotel that we're staying in, either early in the morning or late at night, if you go out, you'll see the elk just grazing on the lawn or nibbling on the plants that the flowers that they've just put in a few hours ago. But I think you'll really enjoy Jasper because it's uniquely different from Banff. And of course, one of the reasons we want to go to Jasper is the proximity to the Maligne Canyon and Maligne Lake. My mind, probably one of the most beautiful areas in Jasper National Park. And we'll be able to do a quick little walk along the canyon. It's a very easy walk. It's only about 3 or 4 blocks, but during that time, we'll get to peer down into the Maligne Canyon. And it's very unique because it's unlike a lot of the other wide mouth canyons. This one has just been worn straight down by the Maligne River, and it's uniquely different. This is also usually a pretty good route for wildlife because there's not a lot of traffic along this road. One of the few places we actually have seen moose, as well as a good number of bear. We'll pass by Medicine Lake, and the interesting thing about this lake is that it simply disappears at the end of the season. It's about 3 miles long. It's a beautiful lake. You're going to get to see it when it looks like the plug has been pulled about halfway through the season. It's a unique lake. It is very beautiful, and you're going to see how this natural phenomena takes place because by the end of September, this lake will be dry. But you're going to see it kind of in transition, which is, to me, a far more interesting time. And then we get to take a 90-minute boat cruise onto Spirit Island. This will be our own private boat. We won't be sharing it with any other groups. And it is the only tour you can take. Well, that's not true. There's another tour you can take on a lake in the Rockies, but this is by far the most beautiful. It goes only halfway down the lake. We are the only motorized vessels allowed on the lake. And we get to see some of these beautiful places. We actually stop and you can get off for a little walk around a cove area and this area known as Spirit Island. Definitely the highlight of coming into Jasper. So this day is quite an amazing day because we have all this beauty lake cruise in the morning, and then we come back into Jasper. We kind of grab a quick lunch in town, and then it's all aboard for the Skeena. This is Via Rail's train that goes all the way from Jasper to Prince George, and then on to Prince Rupert. This is a 980-mile trek right across the central part of British Columbia. This is the route. It might be a little hard for you to see because of the coloring on it, but if you look at one end, that's Jasper, and then if you look at the far end, that's Prince Rupert, and that's where we will begin our Inside Passage cruise. If you kind of look at that map, we're only about 60 miles away from the southern tip of the Alaska Panhandle when we're in Prince Rupert. So this is an incredibly beautiful area that I can almost guarantee very few of your friends have ever seen. It's a very unique route. It takes 2 days for us to cross it. We'll stop in Prince George, which you see kind of in the middle there for overnight, and then we'll reboard the train in the morning and do the second half of the trip. What is unique about this trip is the train itself. You can see down in the far right corner, that's the size of the train. It's usually no more than 5 cars. It's like kind of having your own private train. We'll be the only group on board, and the only other people on board will be people that periodically get off and on along the way, because in a lot of cases, it's so remote that the majority of people would travel from one place to the other, maybe only an hour or two at a time by train. We will have a park car, which you get a chance to see. It's kind of a combination of a dome car and a lounge car. It has a bar in it, and we pretty much will have that to our exclusive use, along with the dome car at the top. So the viewing is beautiful, but we also have our own car in terms of just regular seating. So it's all reserved, and it really becomes almost like your own private train. This is the part I love about this trip. Traveling across the north central part of British Columbia, as I said, almost 900 miles. So it's a big area. And you're going to be traveling in mountains. You're going to be traveling in some area that is focused on farming. There are some of the biggest cattle ranches in Canada located in this area. It's also an area that is known for logging and pulp and paper mills. You'll see the results of some of that. Not quite as much logging in the area now as there used to be, but it's a very visible part of the economy. And then the other areas, there's going to be dozens of beautiful lakes that will travel along the side. So I know you don't have time to get out and fish, but you will see people that are enjoying that sport as we move along. So we end up that night in Prince George, which is really the industrial hub of northern British Columbia. It's not a very good picture, but it's not a pretty city. It's pulp mills, it's lumber mills, it's a lot of industry. But we have a beautiful hotel there. It'll give us a chance to have a great dinner and kind of get ready for the next day. And the next day starts early. We'll be on board the Skeena at 8 o'clock in the morning. There again, you get a chance to see the car at the end is the park car. So you'll see it has a smaller dome. It only holds about 22 people, but during the day, people rotate very nicely on it. And it's a great way to see. The unique thing about this train is it stops along the way for just about anything. I've been on it when the engineers stopped and went off into the bush to deliver coloring books to some ranchers who he'd seen their children playing a little too close to the tracks. So it's a very personal trip. And the people we meet along the way, if you've ever been on an Alaska railroad trip and you get a chance to meet some of the locals, that makes it even that much more interesting. So we'll travel along the Fraser River, which is a 500-mile river in British Columbia, as well as the Bulkley River Valley. And the beauty of the way we travel with this trip is that the railway follows the riverbed. So we are in the middle of the mountain ranges, traveling along beside the river. So we get to see the waterfalls and the rapids and as well be surrounded by the mountains. And I can guarantee you very seldom see, other than through the little town sites we go through, there is really not much in the way of civilization. It's just beauty. And the great part is the engineer keeps an eye out for wildlife, so he'll give notification very quickly if there's a bear or a moose or an elk close by. So it's also a real good opportunity to view what's going on. As we make our way through the central part of British Columbia, we start to come into the coastal mountain range. And this happens to be a larger city by the name of Smithers. It's large, being probably 10,000 people. Well known for the outdoors area, beautiful mountains for climbing. And of course, in the wintertime, it's also a great ski area. Here we'll start following the what we call the mighty Skeena River, and we'll follow its route all the way to Prince Rupert. The interesting thing, you'll see the picture on the right, is that the highway travels right beside us. This was a road built for the Second World War by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It was built in order to provide a transportation by both rail and train to put supplies into Prince Rupert, which was one of the main supply areas for the military up in Alaska. So it's a beautiful route. And it's not that you get bored with the scenery, but there's something different around every bend. As we get closer to Prince Rupert, we'll see some of the great history. At one point, there were over 3 dozen fish canneries, the size of the ones you see here, that canned fish from both Alaska and British Columbia waters and sent them all over the world. Most of that is extinct now, but we will get a chance to see some of the sites as we pass by on the train, as well as the next day get an opportunity to visit one of the museum sites. So we arrive in Prince Rupert usually around 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. It's a long day on the train, but it's a beautiful day. We'll have lunch and dinner on the train that particular day. And the meals are interesting. I wouldn't say they're gourmet, but they'll certainly get us through the day and sort of add to the flavor of how far north we are and we're kind of pioneering on this trip. So on day 6, we'll have kind of a nice day of rest in between the train and the boat. It's an opportunity for us to take a look around Prince Rupert, not a particularly big place, so it's easily, we can walk around a little bit, get a chance to get our legs back in action, get down to the wharfs and see the fishing fleet. We'll also go out to the North Pacific Cannery Museum, which is the last of the real canneries that existed in this area. It's been kept beautifully by private sponsors. It's now a part of the Canadian National Museum system. And you'll get a real good view of the kind of conditions that were that made the industry as big as it was, and also gives you a little bit of an idea of how it's evolved over the years. Now there are no canneries active in this area as we've got to a whole modernization of the process, but it's a great part of history and one that everybody finds very interesting. In Prince Rupert, as throughout the North, the First Nations people, and those would be the Native Canadians, are emphasized in a lot of different ways. And there's a beautiful museum in Prince Rupert that we'll go into. Depending on the day and on the mood of the people in the museum, we may have some storytelling, some dancing, but we'll definitely get an opportunity to see some of the rich culture in terms of the cedar carvings, the cedar canoes, and some of the regalia of the First Nations people. In the afternoon, you kind of have a free afternoon, and there is an opportunity to do some optional whale watching in the area, which is we're right in the middle of that transition period for a lot of the whales. So it's a pretty interesting time. And of course, one of the beauties of Prince Rupert is it has one of the largest population of bald eagles anywhere along the West Coast, and you will see them all over. I'm not sure if this group will be the same ones there, but you will definitely see lots of bald eagles. So day 7, this is a very early day. We'll be up probably as early as 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to make our way down to board our BC government ship that will take us on a journey through the Inside Passage. Some of you have probably done Alaska tours, and you would have probably taken almost a day and a half to do this trip on one of the big cruise ships. We're going to do it in a full day of beautiful viewing. So here's the route. We go from Prince Rupert all the way down. You can see why it's called the Inside Passage. Lots of wiggling in between the islands, and then finally crossing Hecate Strait to the northern tip of Vancouver Island called Port Hardy. It's a beautiful trip. I could say 90% of it is in protected waters. You're never going to feel any motion at all in the ship. And the short time that we go across to Port Hardy, very, very seldom do we come into any rough waters, but it's only about an hour, and it's a very scenic trip to get across that route. Now, the ferry itself is the Northern Expedition. It's run by the BC government. They have a large fleet of ferries that serve all the West Coast. This is by far their most deluxe ship. It was designed specifically for this route. It carries about 400 to 500 passengers, as well as cars, trucks, and in fact, we'll have our motorcoach on board with us as well. The unique thing about what happens when we're on board is that we have a reserved seating in what they call the Aurora Lounge. Now, the Aurora Lounge holds about 70 people. We will have half of that designated for us. There'll be reserved seats. Nobody else can come into this lounge. You'll have a little key that allows you access to it. The beauty of this is that you're not competing with the other 450 people for viewing space, for leaving your things on a chair. It's very secure. Your tour manager will be there all the time. We serve coffee and cookies and donuts. And the viewing, you're right in the bow of the ship. So it's almost like a panorama movie. I mean, it's the most beautiful way to enjoy that particular area. So it is unique. There'll be other tours on the ship, but we will probably be the only one that use this exclusive facility. On board the ship, there are also different opportunities for eating. We will include breakfast and dinner on board the ship. Lunch will be on your own, but the dinner will be in a designated dining room. Breakfast probably be more downstairs in the cafeteria style, and all of the cafeteria style and the cafes are open throughout the day. Multiple places to view as you go along. There are open decks, there's closed deck areas. You can be in the bow, the stern, you can be just about anywhere on the ship as an opportunity to get out. And if you want to do some walking, you can do a loop around the deck. Lots of facilities if the weather's beautiful for just sitting out in the deck and enjoying maybe a cup of coffee as you watch the scenery unfold. There's also a theater and a beautiful gift shop that has a lot of traditional Canadian-made goods in it. The theater is unique in that during the day, they do different presentations on the culture, the history, the gold rush, all the things that took place in the Inside Passage. So those are kind of ongoing. And then in the evening, we are on board the ship till about 10:30 at night. So in August, it's still going to be light until 11 o'clock. But there is an opportunity if you just want to go and relax and watch a nature movie or something like that. It's another opportunity to move around on the ship. And I'm just going to show you some of the beauty that you're going to get an opportunity to see. This is this is our ship making its way down. About 75% of the cruise is in waters like this. And although they're few and far between, there are communities along the way. This happens to be one of the many lighthouse stations that are along the way. If you want to live in isolation, boy, this is the way to do it. And there will also be some older fishing canneries that most of them are abandoned now, but some of them are used by sport fishermen as well. The other thing that we very often see are pods of orca whales in this area. So the captain and his crew always keep everybody well informed to let you know if they're visible and what side of the ship to see them on. But I've been on this trip many times and we've seen whales all the time. And maybe if you're lucky, along the way, we might see a spirit whale. Now, the spirit whales or spirit bears, at least, they're few and far between. They are a very unique form of the black bear, and the First Nations people thought them to be a good omen. I can tell you I have never seen one, but we are always hoping that that might happen. The end of the day, we will have our own motor coach with us, and we'll simply board the motor coach on when we're still on the boat. It'll drive us off into Port Hardy. Our hotel is only about 5 minutes away, so it's a long day, but you'll be tucked into your accommodation very quickly and hopefully having great memories of that wonderful cruise. So day 8 is also a beautiful day. This is Vancouver Island, and we're going to go all the way from Port Hardy, which you see up at the top end, to the southern tip in Victoria. This is a unique island. It's almost 300 miles long, and if you were to look at it in terms of the various climates, it's very unique. The top end is rainforest. Here's where we have the last of the old growth, massive trees and forests. By the time we get to the southern end, Victoria is actually in one of Canada's few desert areas. So it's a beautiful day of traveling down this island. When we start up in the north part, we'll actually be in the rainforest. Now, I can't guarantee we'll do a hike because we have to get going fairly early in the morning, but you will get a great opportunity to see some of these giant Douglas fir and cedar trees that some of them 300 and 400 years old. As we make our way down the island, we'll stop at this beautiful little place called Telegraph Cove. And it has a great history, not only of the telegraph, that was really never actually happened here, but also of whaling. There was a tremendous amount of whaling done in this area. And we'll get a chance to visit the Whaling Museum. And interestingly enough, we also tend to see a lot of the orca whales come into the harbor here. So it'll be a neat chance to see that. And there's, again, eagles just about everywhere you look. We'll make our way down the island. About halfway down, we'll stop off at a place called Campbell River. That's where we'll have some lunch. It is known for its sports fishing. Used to be called the salmon capital of the world. I don't know if it still is, but it's a beautiful little stop for us along the way. And as we make our way down the island, you'll also see some of the beautiful resorts that are along the way. As we get a little closer to Victoria, there's a beautiful little city called Duncan, which has a route that they call the Crest Route. They now refer, in most cases in Canada, to totem poles really as crest poles. And they are a family history of the First Nations people. And as we drive through Duncan, they are literally on the streets beside us as we move our way, over 150 of them. And then we arrive in Victoria. We should be arriving in Victoria in the late afternoon. I don't know if any of you have been to Victoria, but it is probably the most British of any city in Canada, and probably one of the most beautiful. This happens to be the Empress Hotel. Our hotel is located just beside it. It has a beautiful view of the harbor. And the beauty of Victoria and of where we're staying is that now you can get out, you can walk around the harbor, you can walk into the town to some of the shops, all within 4 or 5 blocks of the hotel. And it's very level. So beautiful, safe city. We'll have a wonderful meal that night and sample some of the seafoods of the area. We're located right beside the Parliament buildings. And again, another beautiful place to go if you want to have a walk in the evening. The Parliament buildings along with the Empress are all lit up. And if you want to do something kind of romantic, they have the tally-ho coaches that you see here. The next day, we start our day off with just a short tour of the city. We'll do a little drive-through of the main part of the city as well as the Chinatown, as we head out to the world-famous Bush Art Gardens. If you haven't ever been here, you'll find it amazing. And we'll have enough time for everyone to see probably as much as you want of the gardens. It's always unique in that some people could spend a whole day there. Other people say, well, that was a nice hour and I'm done. So we kind of work it in between to give you an opportunity. Your tour director will give you an idea of maybe the highlight places to go. And if you're not interested in doing a lot of walking, there's many, many beautiful places to sit and have a cup of tea and a crumpet and just enjoy the beautiful area. This is probably one of my favorite views of the garden. This is down this used to be, 80 years ago, it was an old stone quarry. So you can get a bit of a view of what you're going to see here. There are multiple other special gardens along the way. From there, we'll take a noon ferry that goes through the Gulf Islands. There's a beautiful little set of islands wedged into between British Columbia, Washington State, and Vancouver Island. It's about a 90-minute trip, and it just kind of winds its way through the islands. Again, we're on a beautiful big ferry that you have lots of viewing, and that'll take us to the mainland. And from the mainland, it's about an hour drive to the city of Vancouver. And I lived in Vancouver for 50 years, and it is as spectacular as you see here. In the afternoon, we'll, again, traffic and everything permitting, we'll do a little loop around the Chinatown and Gastown area, which is kind of off to the right of this picture. And then we'll do a quick run around Stanley Park, which is the 1,000-acre green spot you see on the far left-hand side. It's a beautiful city. It's a very densely populated city, and So we will judge how we do our touring based on the traffic, but it's a great way to bring this tour to an end. We'll have a wonderful meal together the final night. We'll pick a beautiful location. We've got a couple of wonderful restaurants that we've set aside for this, and an amazing way to end this tour. So on day 10, again, depending on your flight times, we will end up at the Vancouver International Airport. If the flights are later in the afternoon, we'll do some touring in the morning. But it's a great way to, I think, bring this trip to an end. It really is 3 beautiful trips in one. I've escorted this tour many times, and I've never had anybody that didn't say it was probably the most beautiful trip they'd ever been on anywhere in North America or maybe anywhere else. So you have some opportunities now. This, I would say, is a bucket list trip. There is a very good chance I will actually be the tour director on this. And if it's so, I really look forward to meeting all of you. And I'm going to turn it back over to our host today. But I have an opportunity for any questions you might have. And I just really urge you to take a look at this trip. There's nothing more spectacular than this one. Eric, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Now's the time for questions. That was a great presentation. We appreciate it. Anybody have questions, either that want to chat via video or in the room? Yes, we have one from the back.
Flights, if your flights are whatever time, do we arrange our own flights, or are these flights arranged by Sun Tours? How does that work?
So the question was, who arranges all the air? So as with every tour that we do, all air transportation, air transportation is included from Albuquerque or your destination city. We've got folks that might join us from all over the country, certainly because who find us over the internet or something like that at book. Most of our customers are going to be from Albuquerque or Tucson and going to be flying directly. So basic economy air, we've already booked it. We have a group. And if you want to do an upgrade, we can certainly look at an air upgrade for you. We arrange the air, we do the boarding passes, we get everything, we get you checked in, and then the morning that you get to the airport, you'll print out your boarding pass and go onto the plane.
Is it?
No, it won't be on what's our airline?
It is,
Probably West.
it is
Western?
United to Canada.
United to Calgary
And American Airlines.
and American back from Vancouver. Okay. So we do United and American and basic economy air is included. So, just basics, we offer a package. So the air, most of the meals, what we call mostly inclusive pricing. So all of your gratuities, most of the meals, certainly all the lodging, all the admissions that are included will all be part of the package price.
Another question.
Yes.
Our national park passes that those of us who haven't apply to all parks in the US. What about national parks in Canada?
That's not applicable. And in this, really, we wouldn't deduct the price from your tour. We get a package anyway. So what we do normally in that case, you just use it in the United States, right? Enjoy it. Any other questions? Yes.
So are the hotel rooms like, just your basic, like 2 queen beds or a king bed, or is there choices, or how does that work?
So we usually book 2/3 double occupancy, meaning 2 beds, and 1/3 king, meaning, for either singles. So single, if you're traveling as a single, you normally have your choice of either a king bed or 2 doubles or 2 queens, just depending on the situation in the hotel we're in. We try to do upper mid-tier accommodations, so good value, nothing that we wouldn't want to sleep in, let's put it that way. and I'm pretty persnickety about where I want to stay. And we try to do the same when we're traveling.
And breakfast included with these hotels.
Absolutely. All breakfasts are going to be included for every sun tour. Some of the dinners and some of the lunches. Yes.
Is there any kind of group meeting before the trip to kind of meet people or find out what we should be bringing?
Excellent question. So the question was, do we have a meeting before the tour? And the answer is yes. For most of our tours, at least our international tours and our cruises, we have a pre-tour meeting right back here in this space where we are. And for folks who are remote, we do it also remote. We give you a briefing on what to wear, the currency, the voltages, which are the same because it's North America. But just to get you ready for the tour, you can meet the other travelers. Absolutely. And if you're a single traveler and you want to meet and you potentially want to room with somebody else, and to save some money, we can also make sure you guys are hooking up to vet each other to see if you want to travel together. We're not going to put two travelers together that don't know each other, but we're going to certainly make sure you guys know each other and get comfortable about rooming together. But certainly that's a big commitment. Yes, sir.
Are there any passport requirements?
Passport. So the question was, are there any passport requirements? Well, yes. We're going across the border to Canada, so you're going to need a valid passport. Certainly, you're going to want to, if it's not renewed now, go get it renewed right away. It's usually valid. It's valid for 10 years, but they want it to be valid at least 6 months from the date of the departure. So if the date of departure is going to be August 15th, which means if you have a current passport, it's got to be valid through, I guess, February, March of 2025. Okay, any questions online from anybody?
Eric, maybe a couple of other things I was just going to mention. One of which is when you arrive in Calgary, it's a very easy airport, easily negotiable. And then the beauty when you leave Canada is you actually go through U.S. Customs and Immigration in Calgary, so that when you arrive back in the U.S., you do not have to go through U.S. Customs at your destination. So that definitely speeds things up. The other thing I was going to mention was that question usually comes up about how easy is this a trip for if you have any kind of physical disability. And I would say that the majority of the trip is easily accessible. Even for somebody with a walker, the amount of time that we would have it, the only place we might have a challenge would be on one of the Icefield Explorers, but everything else is easily accessible. There's not a lot of walking. And obviously, if you're going to Bouchard Gardens or some of those places, the amount of walking you do would be entirely up to you. So it is easily navigable.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
What does the
Yes.
travel protection policy cover?
Okay, first of all, there's a little mistake on the pricing, I should say. That's about triple the price of what it should be. The actual price of travel protection, and she didn't want to put this on paper, is $666. So I was afraid she would be jinxed by putting that number down, really. But no, the actual travel protection is $666 per person, correct. That's for double. That's if you're a double, of course, certainly. It's a little more, it's just over 10% of the policy price. And certainly we encourage people to get travel protection. We're an agent of TravelX, and we've been an agent of theirs for quite a while, and we find they're a great company to work with. They're owned by Berkshire Hathaway, really good company.
So what does it cover?
So it's going to cover everything from if you're sick. certainly before the tour and you have to cancel the tour, it's gonna, as long as you have a doctor's note or something, it's gonna cancel and give you full refund for the cancellation. Interruption for trips, if the tour, for whatever reason, has to be interrupted for a day or two, it's gonna pay a certain amount towards hotels, etc. If you need emergency evacuation, you're in the middle of Canada and something happens and you need to be airlifted to, to Vancouver, somewhere like that, it's going to cover that sort of thing. So it's going to maybe cover trip cancellation, medical, and other protections. So we've got more information. We're happy to provide more information. There's more information on our website, as well as we've got flyers for you as well. This describes more about the travel protection. Any questions online? Okay, none. Any other questions? Yes, Jim.
Eric, I was just going to make one other thing. I know you covered the fact that virtually everything is identical when you come to Canada in terms of power and all of those necessities. But just remember also that the Canadian dollar right now, you're going to get about a 25 to 26% boost on your US dollar when you're buying all those wonderful gifts and special things that you want to bring back with you. So there's a definite advantage on the currency right now.
Quick question.
And I would strongly recommend, there's a couple days where Jim mentioned the food might be moderate, maybe not so great. Bring your own red or green chili with you. Always good to travel.
Would you accept
You can barter for it up in Canada, I'm sure.
would you accept a Vancouver to Portland instead of a Vancouver to Tucson?
Absolutely. So we'll be happy to modify your air to travel to Portland or wherever else. Not a problem.
Question on when you talked about the advantage of US versus Canadian dollars, do we get that same advantage using credit cards or not?
So the question was, do we get an advantage when you use credit card about the exchange rate? And the answer is yes. You get the exchange rate the day that you're using it. So if the exchange rate is 25%, you're going to get that. It'll fluctuate every single day, but it doesn't matter which currency you're using. You're getting that at the time.
Looks like someone was asking in the chat about trip.
So Cindy is asking, I missed how much the trip is. Did you say? Cindy, I'm not sure where you're traveling from, but from Albuquerque, it's $6,265 double occupancy and $7,765 single. And I believe from Tucson is a bit more. I don't have the exact cost on me, but certainly on our website. We have limited occupancy left. I just, not to pressure everybody, but we only have 5 or 6 more rooms available for this. It's been selling very well, thankfully, and we have limited occupancy. So just to let everybody know, if you're on the cusp of booking, in my estimation, our new catalog will come out in the next week and a half, and it'll probably be booked for sure within the next 2 weeks and be filled. So we have 25 rooms. So we'll be at roughly around 35 or so for this trip. And I'll be escorting the group from the United States. So if anybody of you would like to travel with somebody fun and who likes to have a good time, don't travel with me. No, I'm kidding. You travel with me, we're gonna have a great time. And Jim and I will be partying it up, having a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. Prince George, boy, I'll tell you, that's the place.
So final payment due with this tour, I think, is 150 days. Let me see, 120 days. April 9th. So that's 4.5 months before the tour. So we have a tiered payment. It's You put a $250 deposit down, that's fully refundable up until the final payment. And then there's certainly going to be tiered sort of penalties for cancellation after that. Yes,
What if I put the deposit down today and then tomorrow or the next day go for a passport, and start the passport stuff, and it doesn't get processed in time? My insurance covered and say, oh, you know, too bad, passport's too late. Not in, you know, hasn't been issued soon enough.
so the question is, if she goes tomorrow and she goes to get her passport, well, considering you have 8 months before the tour, you should be fine if you start your passport now. And there is an expedited process. If you're really worried about it, if you're within 3 months, you can ask for an expedited process. It's a slight extra fee, and they usually get it done within a month. But honestly, the last time I did it, I got my passport renewed. It took about 3 weeks. And it was no big deal. So I wouldn't worry about it. Go ahead and do it now. You got plenty of time. And if perchance you don't, your passport doesn't come through, we'll help, we'll help to get it expedited. We'll track it down and make sure we're communicating and get it expedited for you, so you don't miss out on the tour.
Isn't there a special thing for Canada that you can get certain paperwork just to go to Canada? Because I know a friend did that.
Well,
She
there,
just got paperwork to go to Canada.
I'm not sure about special paperwork. During COVID, we had to fill out a lot of special paperwork to go to Canada. They've taken away all those.
But it had nothing to do with COVID. It's just a special entrance into Canada, so you can visit there.
Jim, do you know of any additional
Yeah. No,
entrance requirements right now to get into
No.
Canada?
everything it's passport is all you need. And no criminal record. Between the
Yeah.
yeah, we have managed to get all those restrictions removed now. So you just need to have that passport and make sure it's valid and good for at least 6 months before you enter.
Okay. Well, this is going to be a great tour. I mean, certainly beautiful scenery, wonderful cuisine, great mode of transportation, and traveling with fellow friends from the Southwest. What a wonderful tour.
You said this tour, you've done this several times. Do you do it about the same time each year?
Absolutely. It's hard to go much later. It gets very snowy and late. So in Canada, a lot of the touring, you've got like a limited window during the summer. So that's where we do most of our touring. Now, we do other Canadian tours throughout the year, but specifically in this area, because of all the snowfall, there are winter tours, but it's certainly more limited. Okay, thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you on tour and traveling with you all. Thank you again, Jim, and
Yep.
everybody online.
Well, I look forward to seeing you all too. So thank you very much.
Good timing.
Yeah, cheers.
I know.
I'm very